After years of working on my home garden, it finally looks like this. From certain angles, at certain times of the year. Join me as I reflect on my garden dreams and lessons learned. I don't have a perfect garden. A perfect garden is not my goal, as I need my free time for other things. Instead of perfect, I want a garden that is good enough. Productive enough when I'm growing food, and pretty enough when I'm growing flowers. As I aim for that state of good enough, I want my efforts to be efficient. Efficiency requires thought, planning, and analysis. It also requires being able to learn from past experiences. I thought perhaps lessons I learned from my gardening experiences might be useful to someone else. And if you think it might be you, keep watching. Would it be silly to think that garden centers sell us not only plants, but also dreams? Well, maybe the dreams are a gift with purchase. Dreams that tropical plants can thrive in non-tropical environments. Dreams that with a bag of potting mix or compost we can overcome the problem of heavy clay soil. Dreams that growing our own vegetables will save us money. Sometimes these dreams come true, sometimes they do not. I don't blame garden centers. They sell what we want to buy. But here's my garden lesson learned number 1. Just because they're selling a plant, it does not guarantee that it will grow well where I live. If that plant evolved to thrive in a significantly different climate, soil, light and temperature, etc., helping it thrive in my environment can take a huge amount of work. Before buying that plant, I should really be asking myself, what will it take to make it grow well? And am I prepared to invest the resources? Time, money, effort, supplies. Is there a plant that would be a better use of my resources? Lesson learned number 2. When growing fruit, vegetables and edible herbs to save money on food, it makes sense to focus on growing food that is expensive to buy. For example, where I live, locally grown garlic is very expensive, but locally grown onions are relatively cheap. Although growing time is not the same, the difference in time is not proportional to the difference in cost of garlic versus onions at the supermarket. So for me, it makes more sense to grow garlic and not onions. Among relatively fast-growing things, for me personally, lettuce makes more financial sense to grow than carrots. Your calculations may differ depending on costs of vegetables in your area and what grows well and fast in your environment, but I do encourage you to think of the maths. Of course, cost saving is not the only reason to grow your own vegetables and fruit. You might want to grow something you can't buy locally at the supermarket, or perhaps your supermarket sells it but in a very low quality version. Those are valid reasons. But if cost saving is a consideration, then do look at the maths. My home garden lesson learned number 3. Not setting up infrastructure before bringing a plant home can cause stress and contribute to suboptimal results. Sometimes someone is giving away a plant for free, or perhaps there's a high chance that a plant will sell out at a garden center, and so I buy it. I bring the plant home and nothing is ready for it. The plant starts putting pressure on me to prepare a spot for it. I stick the plant somewhere in the meantime. Sometimes that meantime can become a very long period of time, long enough for the plant to become unhappy. The care for that plant in a temporary location is often inefficient. For example, while plants in my garden beds get watered all at once, the plant in a temporary pot needs to be individually watered. The longer the plant sits there, the higher the chance that I will fail to get around to watering it at some point. Because realistically, I don't have the time to water every plant individually. After it sits in a pot somewhere for a while, I may find a gap for it in my garden and stick it in there, because it's better than growing it in that pot. That random gap may not be a good place for it. For example, there is a space between roses. I could, in theory, temporarily stick some herbs there. But one of my roses developed a fungal disease and needs to be sprayed. That spray is not suitable for herbs, for edible things. And so that would put me in a situation that cannot be resolved optimally for both the roses and the herbs. Sticking a plant with one set of needs among plants with another set of needs is usually not a good idea. What I should be doing instead is setting up a dedicated and optimized space for my herbs where their set of needs can be consistently met. And ideally, I should be doing that before I bring those new plants home. Lesson learned number 4. Crop rotation is often a good idea. Many plants, such as tomatoes and garlic, benefit from not being in the same soil for 2 years in a row. So if I have 2 garden beds and I want to grow tomatoes and garlic, I should not mix plant them together in both garden beds. Instead, it is wise to have one garden bed for tomatoes and another for garlic. Next year, if I want to grow them again, I can swap them around. Ideally, more than 1 year's gap would be nice, but the reality of gardening in a small garden is often that you don't have that many garden beds. My home garden lesson learned number 5. Home garden infrastructure needs to be set up in a way that can support the plant's life even when my life gets busy. I mean that as I live my life, sometimes I need to go away, sometimes I get sick, sometimes I get busy. My home garden infrastructure needs to allow for my plants not to die during these times. For me, this means a watering system in the garden beds. My system relies on me or someone in the family turning it on and turning it off. I know many people have theirs on timers, but we don't currently have one. If we didn't have a watering system in the garden beds, many of my plants would be unlikely to survive long term. Last year we had watering restrictions in our area for a period of time, banning the use of unattended watering systems, and keeping plants alive during that period was very labor intensive. I still have some plants in large self-watering pots. To me, this isn't as good as an automatic watering system and is barely within acceptable range of ongoing effort requirements, but it's certainly better than regular pots. I still have some plants that are not covered by the watering system and are not in self-watering pots, and these have been on the verge of dying more times than I would like, especially the plants in the long wooden planter. On a hot sunny day, I can water it in the morning and things will already be wilting in late afternoon. I need to do something with it. My garden lesson learned number 6. If I want my garden to look good for a significant part of the year, I need to select a range of plants based on their performance and growing characteristics, not just on how the flowers look. A prime example of this is a Raubritta rose that I purchased some years ago. I bought it based on beautiful photos online. And the pictures didn't lie. When it's covered in flowers, it looks like a rose from a fairy tale. Every year I get beautiful pink capped flowers, lots of them, really lovely. But what I wasn't prepared for was just how sad this rose looks outside of those few weeks. In my garden, for a large part of the year, it is a prickly looking thing that gets covered in fungal disease at every opportunity. I have other roses that don't get covered in fungal disease at the same time, but this Raubritta rose does. Of course, I'm just one person, and your experience of growing this variety might be completely different to mine. In fact, I hope that it's different for you, because the flowers on this rose really are very, very beautiful. But based on how it performed in my garden, I wish I had planted something else here. Something that looks good for more than 3 weeks in a year. If I really wanted to be a rose, I should be picking a variety based on its flowering longevity and disease resistance. I have 2 rose varieties in my garden that I'm happy with the performance of, and that's Pierre de Ronsard rose and a white Meadowland rose. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. Please correct me in the comments if you know how to say it properly. But even so, even the best roses do not flower enough weeks in the year for my liking. So it's a good idea to research what will grow well to cover the rose's downtime as much as possible. The chances are that that something will not be just one plant. For example, in spring I have some daffodils and crocuses. In summer, some dahlias. This year I added Supertunia Vista petunias to my garden, and although previously I wasn't a fan of petunias, I found out about Supertunia Vista a few months ago and bought them as soon as I saw them at the garden center. They really are amazing, very vigorous with mounding habits and a really long blooming time with no deadheading necessary. Not all petunias grow like this. The garden centre had lots of interesting looking petunias at the time, like purple ones with white spots, but I knew I wanted Super Petunia Vista for their performance, and I'm so glad I got them. Paradise is my favorite color. They're just glowing. This is not a sponsored video, but these were my discovery of the season, so I thought I'd share it with you. My garden lesson learned number 7. Low maintenance versus impressive looks is often a trade-off. I want my dahlias to look good when the roses don't. In our climate, for dahlias to do really well, I find I need to deadhead them. And when they stop flowering at the end of the season, I have to leave the foliage and let it die off naturally before digging up the bulbs. This means I have to keep looking at untidy, dying off foliage for weeks and weeks. It does not look good. If I cut it off early, the bulbs might not be as healthy, so I have to choose what's more important to me. Digging up bulbs and storing them over winter can be a chore too. If I don't dig them up, some of the bulbs left in the ground regrow next year, and many do not. You can see the result here. Last year I had some dahlias, evenly spaced, very pretty. This year some dahlias popped up, but some didn't, so they just stand out as randomly positioned. Lesson learned number 8. Birds around here are big fans of berries and fruit. When I first started gardening, I thought that surely, even if I don't have bird netting, there will be some berries left for me. Surely the birds wouldn't eat all of the berries. I was wrong. They eat all the berries. They have a lot of free time and they're willing to spend it on my berries. These blackbirds here are scared of nothing. I admire their bravery, but I also want to eat my strawberries myself. Hence bird netting. The particular hoops you can see in this video, I really would not recommend. They have disappointed me. I didn't realize when I bought them, but they are fiberglass on the inside. They come as a set of slightly flexible sticks with connectors, and you're supposed to be able to connect several of them together and bend them. This worked okay in one garden bed, but in my other garden bed, they were a catastrophic failure. After I installed them, everything was fine for a couple of days, and then they snapped like twigs in the middle of the night under mysterious circumstances. I don't know if I bent them too much, or if a cat used my bird netting as a trampoline, or what happened. I have no idea, but they snapped, and I think they're quite dangerous in this condition. I am about to replace all of these with a different type of hoops. Lesson learned number 9. Weed mats save time. I have weed mats covering my garden beds with holes for plants. It might seem like it shouldn't be too hard keeping such a small garden weed-free without the mats, but it is unnecessary work for me, so I have a lot of appreciation for weed mats. Lesson learned number 10. Don't underestimate the importance of drainage. We have very heavy clay soil, and as I discovered, digging out a hole, putting a bag of potting mix there and planting some plants is not always enough. Sometimes raised garden beds really are the only way. I hope that my lessons learned were useful for someone out there, and if that someone is you, please like and subscribe.